Gay, who is a nominated member of parliament in the National Assembly, as we have a discussion on what happened on the fateful day when the protesters invaded the National Assembly. Good morning to you, Bishop. Glad to see that you are fine and well this morning. How are you doing today, sir?
Good morning, and thank you very much for having me. On the fateful day, we were on our business in Parliament. The subject matter was the finance bill and the processes that follows. So we did pass the bill, and then we took a bit of time to finish the other part of the bill, appropriation, and so on, which was very important because after having the bill, you have to have a mode of allocation also be approved by law. We were inside the chamber, and then all of a sudden our members from the other side of the aisle came out, and as they came out, some of us still continued to wait. Then within a twinkle of an eye, we hear that our young men were already coming through, and everybody now were looking for an escape route. Unfortunately, where there is what we call an evacuation route out, it's not friendly to the users of wheelchair, and it was getting worse. And then we chose with my sister, Honorable Rose Museu, who is working on crutches. We made a choice to face the young men. We stayed in what we call the private members' lounge. Thankfully, they came and they found us there. And immediately they knew who I am. And they also knew where I voted for. But they looked at me and they said, "We know you, you are a good man, and we want to request that you allow us to escort you out of the building, because what might happen any time from now may not be good for you, both of you. But we are not bad people. We are only agitating for what we think and we believe it is our right." And they walked us out, and that is it. They asked me where I want to go, whether I needed a hooper or something like that. I said, "No, just lead me to that corner," because I knew it wasn't safe outside. So they walked me to a safe place. And I wish to take this opportunity that on that fateful day, a lot happened. And unfortunately, lives were lost. I wish to condole with all the families that lost their loved ones. In any disturbance, in any altercations, consequences sometimes got to come, and regrettably, we lost the lives of our people. We are saying, pole kwao. Secondly, I want to take this opportunity to thank these young men who saved my life and that of Rose Museu. When everybody was running for their lives, and they were rightly so, because they could not save me and we could not save them. I want to thank these young men and appreciate that even in the moment of anger, a moment of stress, they still had humanity in them to separate issues from humanity, and I'm very, very thankful. I wish also to thank the President for heeding to the call by Kenyans led by these young men and willing to step down his stand and that of Parliament. He persuaded members of Parliament that we agree with the younger people and listen to them. The bill will not go anywhere. It will be, we discuss this, we can build another bill, but the nation is important and the generation of our children is very important. Let us take time and listen to them. And I wish to thank the President for having taken this bold step to have the nation greater than himself, greater than all of us, and also to value the future, that these children are our future. I wish to thank them.
Now, Bishop,
Finally, I want to appeal to these young people. Yes.
Yeah, Bishop, as you've just painted on what happened on that fateful day, as the young people walked into Parliament, they found you. Perhaps you had a conversation with them on what it is they wanted. Did they listen to you? Did you try to talk to them at that particular point, Bishop?
Yes, they engaged me. They told me they knew me, who I am, and they knew where I stand politically. And they even told me, we know you are a friend of the president, and we want to send you with one message to him, that one, we are not ending it here until the bill be dropped. That is what they told me. And actually, they emphatically said, this bill is evil. Did you see it? Have you seen it? And the other gentlemen who are with him, they said, stop asking these elders so many questions. We know him and we know his heart and we know he means well for all of us. And we went on conversing. As we went on, they began singing and they were also shouting, telling those around, I'm sure they were addressing the security personnel, and they said, we are peaceful, we want to see the Honorable to be where he is safer. And that was the conversation we had with them. They gravitated around the grievances, yes.
And now, Bishop, as they walked in there clearly with their anger, and I'm pretty sure at that point you were afraid. But when they got in there, they appeared to tell you that they are peaceful. All they want is the bill to be rejected. They sent you with a message to the president. Have you delivered that message to the president, and how did the president respond to that?
I think the president, on his volition and with this network of information, you know, you and I, that is actually the most informed person in the country because of the instruments of communication and information within the country. By the time we went to see him as members of parliament after the morning session yesterday, we found the president already was convinced that he could not sign the bill, and that he was persuading members that although you have passed this bill, the country is greater than all of us, and I want to listen to these young people. Perhaps they have a point and they would like to express it to us. So we shared with him and agreed with the president, and citing such information that we got from our young men. And also from judging from the experiences, that Kenyans had been given information which was different from what we knew from the House. And the many issues that they were concerned had already been dropped out after the what we call public participation. The bill was drastically changed by the time it came to the House. But it became a little too late, because the public had made up their minds, and they sent a message through diverse means. And as leaders leading in this country from different constituencies, we have 290, we have other representation from the women reps, and we had information that Kenyans had already made up their minds. And when we found the president, thankfully, he himself had already taken the lead. And he said he was declining signing the bill. And he went ahead as to say, we are withdrawing the bill in totality. We are not going to recommend for any amendment, but we will withdraw it in totality.
Even as the president withdrew the bill, someone begs to ask the question, did it have to get here? Why does it seem like, when does public participation end? The protesters were clearly speaking and participating and airing their views to the president. Why does it seem as though members of the National Assembly were used, it seemed, not to want to listen to their people?
This is not the first time to have some concern by Kenyans over a finance bill in this country. You remember even during Mudavadi's presentation in the early years when he was the Minister of Finance under Kanu, you remember the altercations in Parliament. Sometimes some reactions from the public is unprecedented, and sometimes it takes a new turn that has never been experienced before. For example, the riots and the kind of engagement we have had in terms of protest in this country, we have had an opportunity of meeting with the leaders and organizers of any protest face to face and be able to negotiate and discuss together. This one was very unprecedented in the fact that these young men are gravitating around a platform which is more virtual and unreal. So you cannot see them, you cannot touch them. So while trying to understand the escalation of the protest took new turns every day within a very short time because it is a real-time reaction. It looks like there was a centralized information that once the young men are called on to do something, they did it simultaneously from all directions to the surprise of the normal tradition. So their mode of organization was virtual, and their mode of organization was quite strategic, and it was unpredictable. And before everything was discovered that it needs a new approach, damages had taken place, unfortunately.
Now, Bishop, the Deputy President spoke to the same yesterday, and he said that members of Parliament were whipped to vote in a certain way, which begs the question, where does the independence of the legislature lie if you are indeed whipped by the President to vote for this bill, despite Kenyans stating that they did not want this bill?
No, I think the dynamics of politics in democracy, there is a freedom for an individual, and you can choose to differ. We have members of our party who refuse to vote yes, they vote no, and it was their right. We also had members of the minority party who voted yes and not no. The whipping of members is a characteristic of politics, that parties whip their membership according to the, what they believe, the ideology they have, the plan they have for the people, and they are rallying their leaders in Parliament around the plan they have and the vision they have for the country. So it is nothing to do with whether I have the freedom or not. There is a collective resolve and responsibility to carry the country to a certain direction as a party, and to follow the promises on which Kenyans elected you. So that is what is called whipping people to our common agenda. But this does not deny individuals to say no. So in Parliament, the day before and yesterday, even as we made choices, there are those on a cross divide who said no. Even the opposition whipped their members. They also told them, anybody deviating from the stand of the party, they were going to be de-whipped or punished. So those are just characteristics of parties. It's nothing new. But I must guarantee you that every individual member has inalienable freedom to represent his people the best he feels and represent his views he feels. But when someone else is trying to describe it, wants to think that we are all zombies, and that political leaders cannot think. No, they are independent. The only thing that has brought us together is the belief that we have in the party that we joined. We said we have appreciated the manifesto they have. The second thing that guides the decision of the members is the promises which they made to the people, and on that premise, they were elected. Now, what could not be anticipated, and no one cannot, is the details of the journey. The details of the journey. How to do it. Maybe there is a way that needs to be done, and we can still approach the same thing. So it is about the mode of doing, but about where we are going remains the same.
Bishop, I will have to ask you this question now. With regard to the fact that you say you were whipped by the president, it is the nature of politics. But at what point do you then listen to your people? Is your allegiance to the president, or is your allegiance to the people who put you to office?
The people we would reach listened to us and understood. But we are dealing with a generation that were not listening to us because we could not engage with them one-on-one. Someone else was engaging with them on our behalf. Someone else was interpreting the bill on our behalf. Someone else is telling them where to go on our behalf. Because we entered into their platform and we listened to how they were being guided. Through a process, we could not participate with them. And if you do and appear, the environment was so toxic that they were not expecting, you cannot talk with them. But those members of our constituencies, where we reach and where we found, we explained to them and they understood. And we will still do, by the way. We will still do. We have stood it down because Kenyans have expressed their dissatisfaction, and when we weigh between the cost of it, if we maintain it, we think it is unnecessary, and we must listen to our people so that we can carry them along. Yes, we all have been doing it, and this is not the first time we have done it. We have done so many other finance bills in the country, and we have had differences of opinions and even opposition, and it is settled by a vote in Parliament.
But Bishop, today you're saying that you are listening to Kenyans, yet when they wanted to be listened to, members from your party, members from within that coalition were so arrogant, not listening to what they were being told by the Kenyans. Isn't it a little bit too late? And Bishop, finally, do you feel like members of Parliament have let down Kenyans?
First of all, your question is debatable because when is the right time? Secondly, there has never been a wrong time to do the right thing. You can do it early, you can do it midway, you can do it lastly. As to consequences, as to that decision being made, that one is something else. But I think we've done the right thing because all along, the bill came to the House, and when it came to the House, it was given to the Committee of Finance. The Committee of Finance were directed to go and carry out a public participation. That is listening to the public. And all multi-sectoral approach was done, and it took enough time. When it came back to Parliament, we received our new version in the report that this is what Kenyans have said. Drop A, B, C, D, and so on. Kenyans have said, can you improve A, B, C, D? And we went on to look at it and allowed it to go into the third phase, have it amended as per the public participation. Because you cannot listen to the public and use other instruments other than the ones established. One is the Constitution, and then the laws established. So it followed all the processes, and it came to the third reading is when we heard there is a generation called Generation Z, and they have come out to object to the entire bill, and we discovered there is another constituent that needed to be brought into the conversation. As to whether we approach the public according to the law, yes.
And Bishop, now here's a question where the Gen Zs said Occupy Church. They say that they feel like the church has let them down. The church has given precedence to what it is we have experienced today. You as a bishop today, is it, what do you have to say about what the Gen Zs are saying about the clergy letting down Kenyans and not standing up, especially when they were objecting this bill?
Two things. During the single-party system in this country, Kenyans did not have an alternative voice to stand for them and speak for them. And that is why the church played a big role at that time. And they played a huge role and paid even sometimes the high price. Our churches were invaded by political forces, but finally we gave this country a multi-party system that Kenyans will no longer have to run to church for someone to speak on their behalf, because they have a robust opposition leadership in this country that is defending their rights. To demand the church to play the role of an opposition is actually demanding too much. Suppose now the church to come as a last-minute result when there is a conflict in the country. I know they have been accused sometimes that, to see politicians going to church. They are invited by the churches because they are members of that churches, and they bring their friends. Now, that's something else. But to use the church as the in the front, as if it is an opposition arm, then the church is defeated from what you call the principle of neutrality. Yes, I hear that being said, but I think it is a misplaced accusation, because those who are on the other side of the aisle, they think the others are wrong, and those on this side are saying the same. But we have seen the church coming out, and they speak to power. In the Anglican Church recently, you had Elizabeth. Yesterday, the other day, you asked the Episcopal Conference, and you have had evangelical have given their voices, and they are contributing towards speaking to government and the people of Kenya.
Now, Bishop, as we speak today,
has not abdicated its duty.
Okay, Bishop, as we speak today, we have seen our boys just landed in Haiti, but back home we have deployed the military to take charge with regard to the ongoing protest. Doesn't it feel like we are not, if we cannot take care of our situation inside, then why send the military outside? Why send the police outside?
That is an issue of a perception, because Haiti is a country in a dire need beyond, and the capacity is no longer obtained within the country. It cannot get an intra-support system to be able to come up as a nation. Now it has gone down. It is a shattered country. The administrative capacity of the nation has been brought to zero. The capacity of the nation to recover itself is zero. They are now in the spirit of international interdependency. They need to be supported by other communities of nations. Kenya is not an isolated country. It is part of the 180-something countries of United Nations. And it has a track record, for your information, to have participated in peace building in many countries in Africa, and we have participated even abroad, beyond Africa. This country, which is one of the Caribbean countries somewhere in America, it is actually largely black people who were taken there as slaves. And they have their roots, they have their identity crisis. And I think the thinking of the international community is to make sure that it is not a white man trying to solve the problems of the black, but they should get an identity that helps them. So that is the first thing that we come background from. Number two, you cannot compare Kenya. We have not reached where Haiti is. It is unfair to compare our country with the situation in that country. We still have capacity within the country, in our own security forces, to manage our own situation at home, because we don't have a systemic problem. We have only a misunderstanding on certain administrative issues. This can be sorted out. Even when we had our troops in Somalia, we still had a problem in our country. Kidogo, kidogo. Even US, as they sent soldiers all over the world, they have problems within their country. We've had also our soldiers in West Africa, we had soldiers in Central Africa, and we continue to participate as a country amongst the countries of nations. And we cannot be isolated by our own challenges in improving our systems our administrative capacity. That one will continue as long as the country exists and as long as new generations are born, and we will continue to do what we call capacity development. That cannot stop us from working with our neighbors in moments of need, and we cannot run away from international responsibility.
All right, so Bishop, thank you very much. Glad to see that you are safe. We continue to look forward to if indeed the National Assembly Speaker will recall you guys back so that we can continue with the process on the bill that was actually sent back to the National Assembly by President William Ruto. Wish you the very best. But now President William Ruto has finally bowed to pressure from the public to reject the finance bill 2024. Now, in an address to the nation at State House after a parliamentary group meeting, the head of state said he will not sign the controversial finance bill into law, backing down in the face of mass